Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe.
How can Paul Heyman save WWE Raw? I'm Ollie Davis, this is Luke Owen. Welcome to the WrestleRamble, where today we're going to kick off talking about Paul Heyman and how he was reportedly backstage at this week's episode of Raw in Boston, and according to Fightful, his name appeared as a writer on the production scripts. And specifically for two segments, the opening pull-apart brawl and preceding face-off between Bobby Lashley and Roman Reigns, and the Bobby Lashley interview segment from later on, when it was just Bobby Lashley talking to the camera. And we both said, we're not really into this feud because of the players involved and how Roman Reigns has been booked, but we were, and the pull-apart brawl has been overdone, but it was entertaining television. And it's interesting to see that one of the few things on Raw, this week's Raw, that was enjoyable, the other being the Seth Rollins and Dolph Ziggler stuff, was done by Paul Heyman.
Yeah, it's interesting as well. And as soon as you said it was those segments, you're like, that makes sense that Paul Heyman did them then, because it was a pull-apart brawl, and he bloody loves a pull-apart brawl, because the word is that he's always involved in the writing of Brock Lesnar segments, and they usually involve pull-apart brawls as well. I just think that's a good way to kind of build up interest.
I feel like I'm going to be a hypocrite now, because on the Raw review on Tuesday, I was like, WWE have gone back to the well again. It's another pull-apart brawl. They do it all the time when they run out of ideas to just chuck a load of stuff in the pot before the hot go home angle.
And yet Negative Nancy over here thought it was great.
But now that I know Paul Heyman might have done it, I'm like, that's a good idea.
Yeah, it's a good idea, actually. Yeah.
Just shows how fickle I am and how much I love Paul Heyman.
Such a wrestling fan.
Yeah. So, that is a flaw in my personality. And I openly admit that.
Yeah, but I've always really enjoyed Paul's writing. I was a fan of ECW back in the day. I just think that Paul's got a very good mind for wrestling. What I like about Paul Heyman is that his main goal really is to make wrestlers feel special and feel like a big deal. That's why he's been so heavily involved in all the Lesnar stuff last year, is because he wants Lesnar, because he's not there all the time, to feel like this big special attraction and to cut these great promos for Lesnar to make him feel like, this big deal. And when he was on SmackDown way back when Lesnar was first coming in, he was like, no, we need to turn him into the next big thing. That's the name we need to give him, the next big thing. I'm not his manager, I'm his agent. And let's try and make it feel like he's a legit sports athlete and this and the other. And these are the ideas that Paul brings to the table. Just why Stephanie McMahon hates him, because his ideas aren't just Roman Reigns wins and
dance off.
Let's have a wrestler be a wrestler. Yeah. Or he could be a wacky character.
And you can see this going back to his ECW days. And, there's an argument that this is also one of Heyman's flaws, is that he does just focus on the strengths. Because, you watch a Paul Heyman influence match, it's just those big moves. And that's really, I personally really enjoy those kinds of matches, but I get that, those can get kind of tiresome. But back in the ECW days, the reason a lot of those guys were so successful and over in ECW and weren't as successful elsewhere is mostly because Paul Heyman booked them in a way that really emphasised and got over their strengths, but more importantly, hid their weaknesses.
That's it. That was always his thing. Accentuate the strength. I can't remember the exact wording was, just focus on the strength, hide the weakness.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what he said there. He has got exact wording for it on the ECW documentary. But two guys in particular I would point to for that they left ECW after being big deals there and went to WCW and WWF and just completely bottomed out within a couple of weeks of them being there. Mike Awesome going over to WCW, he was awesome in ECW. He was portrayed as this giant killing machine, absolutely unstoppable
just
beast.
Just incredible.
And
I'm not just incredible, but Mike Awesome is.
And he was booked as this really big deal. He went to WCW, they took one look and was don't know what to do. And then they turned him into the fat chick Thriller and that 70s guy, because he had a mullet, and they were like, oh, cool, okay, we'll give him a gimmick, because that's clearly what he needs to get over. And the other one I would suggest is Taz.
I was going to say Taz. Yes.
In ECW, Taz was a suplex machine. He was the FTW champion. He was the guy. And he went to WWF, and the first thing they did was like, oh, he's under 6 foot, don't know what to do. Like, you can't book a guy against and make him look credible. But, like, you can. Because Paul Heyman was doing these. Paul Heyman put him against Bam Bam Bigelow and made him look credible. Bam Bam Bigelow's about 8 foot tall. Big guy with huge tattoos and this big old muscly man. And he was like, no, I'm going to book him against Taz. And it worked. And they were incredible matches.
911.
911, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, they knew what to do with Taz. And I think that's what Heyman's very good at doing. He knows how to book guys and make them seem like big deals.
Whereas WWE almost has a weird idea that, no, everyone has to be an all-rounder. Like, you have to be able to wrestle, like, to their whatever their level is. You have to be able to cut promos and do this. But, you know, really, some guys just can't cut promos. And as much lessons as you give them, as much time, they're just not going to be The Rock. So why even expose that part of them? If you're not going to be the best at it, why present that so much?
Exactly.
Like, why put them in 20-minute in-ring segments? Why not just present them as killers? And you can see this with Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar is a great promo when he can say what he wants. Just look at UFC 226. And he was just like effing and blinding at everyone in the ring. And that Brock's awesome in that. And I actually used to like Brock's promos from back in the day. But coming back through UFC and then in the sort of real combat sports world and then coming into WWE again, he can't speak anymore. Mm-hmm. He's really not good with a scripted promo.
Well, look when he first came back, when he didn't have Heyman with him, and he was cutting those promos on John Cena. He was like, this isn't working at all.
Yeah, really bad. But Paul Heyman is like, yep, let's just hide that part of you. I will say every word. And then all Brock Lesnar says occasionally is bitch. Suplex bitch.
Exactly.
And does something like that. So, yes, so how can Paul Heyman save WWE Raw? Now, we should preface this with, this is just Heyman. It might not even be real. Like, so one person, like, because Fightful reached out for comment, Paul Heyman said he'd rather not comment, and WWE said, it might be a mistake. So whatever. But this is just Paul Heyman. Yeah, because, like, other writers were involved in these segments. Ryan Ward's name was listed as well. So he's not the head booker of Raw. But it just, like, when you hear this sort of stuff, and Heyman always says in interviews, I wouldn't go back to being a booker again. I'm comfortable doing what I'm doing now. But when you see that he's doing that sort of stuff, you kind of get excited. I remember the days when he nearly went to TNA.
I was just thinking the same thing. The clause in his contract was, I want complete control. Mm-hmm. I want to just be able to do whatever I want. And Dixie went, no.
Because it was hiring and firing people. She didn't want from what I understand, being able to fire people that she liked.
Yeah, he wanted to essentially get rid of the old guard. He wanted to get rid of all those guys that had made their name in WCW that weren't relevant in 2008.
Apart from
Sting. And get rid of them. And she was like, no.
What a smart guy.
I really like having them around. He wanted to build new talent.
Yeah. And look, all those new talent that were kind of kept under at TNA are now main eventing WWE. Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, Bobby Roode. So, yes, Paul Heyman, if he did get the head booking position in Raw, which of course he would be able to book the talent with that mindset of exposing strengths and hiding weaknesses. So immediately you've got that. Building new talent. He's really good at, like, I was looking through the Raw roster and seeing, like, if any Paul Heyman guys jumped out to me. Chad Gable.
I mean, that just writes itself, really.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? Yeah. Like, that's his Taz.
Yeah.
You know?
But, like, not so, because Chad can do comedy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I mean, I'd love to see Chad be, like, a super serious, like, suplexing machine.
I didn't think of him like that.
Because he is a big suplexing machine as well. If there's one thing that Chad likes to do, it's throw a suplex.
And they're great-looking suplexes.
They're great-looking suplexes. He knows how to pop the hips.
Fakador joked that he could make Brock come to work. That's... would be a benefit, having the champion on Raw.
Oh, it would be nice, really, wouldn't it? Yeah,
that'd be good. But the other thing, when me and you were talking, we were like, you know what? Maybe the cruiserweights could work on Raw. Work with Triple H. Paul Heyman was really good at putting together these cruiserweight dream matches in ECW. You know, he was the guy who booked Guerrero and Malenko for the first time in North America, or maybe the United States.
At least an exposed level.
Yeah. And you look at all the talent that the cruiserweights have, and I thought, hey, maybe he's the guy to do something with Neville.
Yeah. Oh, do you want to bring Neville back? Be the guy to be like, look, we need to have a chat with him. Because at the moment he is being paid to essentially sit at home.
Sit at home when the G1 climax starts this weekend.
I know.
Yeah. But I wrote down a few names from Raw, because what Heyman did back in the day was create a SmackDown 6, and he effectively built the main event scene around those 6 guys.
Yeah.
Who would yours be on Raw?
Well,
Who do you think Heyman would go for?
I was going to say, I was just looking at your list, and that it's more or less the list that I would go with as well, because the one thing that Raw really struggles with at the moment, and we've talked about this before, it has 3 legitimate main eventers in Roman, Bobby, Lashley, that is, not Rude.
I wouldn't even put Lashley on there.
But in your 3 main eventers...
Roman, Strowman, and Lesnar.
Yeah, but Lesnar's not there, so...
Well, then there's 2. I wouldn't put Bobby in there.
What, is a legit main eventer on Raw?
Not at the moment.
Okay, well, I'd think that they certainly think they've positioned him as a main eventer. So you got Lashley, Roman, and Strowman as your top 3 guys. And then everyone else is it's mid-card fodder. Guys essentially just stuck below a glass ceiling, looking up, wishing they could be in the mix.
And one of those guys is Seth Rollins.
Yeah, one of those guys is Finn Balor.
The most over person in the company.
Yeah, which isn't Finn Balor, it's Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
It's so yeah, I would certainly say that there is a lot of talent that you could mine from that. Someone like a Bobby Roode. Give him something to do. Give him an actual emphasis of personality, where it's like, you're not just a catchshoot. It reminds me...
Bobby Roode.
A heel Bobby... Back to his NXT Bobby Roode. It actually reminds me a lot of Rob Van Dam, the shoot promo he cuts in ECW, where he was like, in ECW, I was like, I had a character. I cut promos and I did this. I went to WWE and they were just like, yeah, just say cool and whatever. And that was his character. It was like I was limited to a couple of words and I was just to be the cool guy. And he was less over there than he was in, and he was massively over in WWE, but he was a megastar.
He was a hero.
He was a hero in ECW. So he's the sort of guy that could take a Balor, a Bobby Roode, and just give these guys something, inject something into them, and turn them into megastars.
Yeah, because I always thought Raw has been shortchanged in the most recent Superstar shakeup. SmackDown's got an incredible roster, incredible depth, and even their undercard is supremely stacked. Like Cesaro and Sheamus are kind of in the undercard right now, which is insane. And I always thought Raw really doesn't have anyone, but then I was listing out this group of people. They do. It's just potential sitting on the shelf.
That's it.
You've got Dolph Ziggler, who is maybe a bit past it until he leaves and comes back again. But Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, he is a great wrestler. It's just the presentation of him that's lacking.
Go back to what was successful in 2014, because there was a period in time. Many people might forget this. There was a period in time where we all loved Roman Reigns, when he was a lot of people's favourite member of the Shield.
Yeah.
And there were times when we thought, oh God, I really want Roman to win the Rumble, because he was awesome, and they protected him so well in the Shield, and they booked him so well. Just go back to that. Go back to the drawing board and be like, why did people like him in 2013? Oh, okay, let's this, and this. Let's just replicate that. And, could turn the crowd around. It might be past that point, but I think that over time you could rebuild those foundations.
I think it is past the time. You need to turn him heel and then do that. But yeah, Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre's being booked very well at the moment, but, he's someone who I would put in that Raw 6. Bobby Lashley, we've already said, Bobby Roode, Braun Strowman, Chad Gable, Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, and the Neville. It's not going to happen, but it's nice to think.
Fantasy book, mate.
Elsewhere in this week's wrestling news, in WWE at least, a women's show and a return. My very own Caitlyn.
Yeah, so I did the news today, when we're recording this, of Caitlyn's return to WWE, and I suddenly realised how I broke Oli Davis's heart by taking that news story off of him, because, she is your fantasy gal.
She is. She's quite something. You
described her as a comic book superhero come to life.
Yeah, she has. She has the body, and yeah, she just she's stepped off a comic book page. She just
drawn by Rob Liefeld.
Yeah, she's incredible. But it's all gone a bit pervy now. But it's fine when I talk about Seth Rollins' abs, but when I talk about this, it's crazy to think that. Because was it Kevin Eck who told this story, a former WWE writer, that Vince McMahon just couldn't buy into a storyline that he proposed where Caitlyn was this love interest. I think it was Cody Rhodes and Caitlyn, and Damien Sandow and Rhodes would fall out over this. And Vince McMahon was like, I don't get it. Who in their right mind would find Caitlyn attractive?
Yeah, he's
and Kevin Eck was like, a large portion of people.
Yeah, he's got a real thing. Like, there are certain people that he just thinks are attractive, but if he doesn't think they're attractive, then no one would think that they're attractive. That's the Vince McMahon mindset.
Which is crazy, because there's quite a famous platitude of beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But you would think a wrestling booker would be able to tap into different parts and try and do that. But no, that's what happens when you get one monotonous hegemony idea. But yes, Caitlyn's returned.
So she's returned for the Mae Young Classic 2, which starts taping in the start of August, the 8th and 9th at Full Sail. They're going to do the whole tournament over the 2 days. Don't know when it's airing on the WWE Network, but she is the first name that's confirmed. The other name that's confirmed, at least by WWE's Australian Twitter account, is Rhea Ripley, who was in the first Mae Young Classic. She made it through to the second round before being knocked out by Dakota Kai. So she, there was an Australian news site that reported it, and then WWE's Australian Twitter account reposted it, confirming it, and Rhea Ripley herself has been reposting it and saying, like, looking forward to this, mate.
Going back to Caitlyn, because she's my favourite subject.
Yeah.
I just
remember Rhea Ripley's mind.
She actually she returned to wrestling last October, I think.
She was
wrestling
announced.
Training.
She was announced, and then she had her match in February.
What she was training, and then she because a lot of people were like, oh, maybe she's training for the Women's Royal Rumble. So, and then like Wrestling Observer said, yeah, Caitlyn has been talked to about a return. So maybe she was going to come back, but then they're just like, no, and now it's happened. Yeah.
I'd imagine so, yeah, because she's been, like, since leaving WWE in 2014, she essentially retired from wrestling. She'd launched a clothing line, she's started her own YouTube channel, and she's been doing all of this other stuff. She's been going back to doing fitness modelling again, which is what she was doing prior to being a wrestler. But I think she did an interview with Chris Van Vliet where she was just like, I got the wrestling bug back again. So I started training in October to have this match in February. And it almost felt like all of that was just so she could head back into, maybe, after those conversations, to head back towards WWE for Mae Young Classic 2. It's a really good way for her to come back. Like, it did work really well for Serena Deeb in last year's. Like, she had a really good story in that tournament. And you could do that again with Caitlyn. And I wonder if this is the sort of thing that she will get a massive push, being that she's the first name confirmed for the tournament as well, whether she'd be a real featured part of the tournament.
Yeah, and she, like, no disrespect to Serena Deeb, but Caitlyn was a huge part of the women's division at a time when... Well, it was the Divas division.
When there was only 2 names in it.
Yeah, and she could have an entertaining match, but like nobody... When everyone else was just kind of glamour models, really.
Yeah, essentially.
So it'd be interesting to see if... Like, I've never seen her wrestle against this new crop of actual talented female wrestlers.
Yeah.
So, maybe she's no good, but I hope she is.
Well, yeah, essentially it was her and AJ Lee were just the only people that decided, like...
Beth Phoenix.
Yeah, and Beth Phoenix. So just sort of like, but her and AJ in particular, essentially just felt like, no, I'm a bit sick of just doing nothing. Like, let's go and actually have an actual match.
Yeah.
And they used to have some really good outings, sort of in that 2014 period. So it'd be nice to see what Caitlyn can do now, as you said, because times have changed drastically. It's amazing to think that was only 4 years ago, but like it may as well be 20 in compared to like what wrestling was then in the women's division compared to what it is now.
Or it might as well be the 1920s in terms of women's rights. This is an awkward segue because I'm kind of going to say the greatest Royal Rumble, of course, where women didn't feature on the show. And apparently, as a rumoured make-do for this, Pro Wrestling Sheet are reporting, WWE might have a women's specific show.
Yeah, which isn't the Mae Young Classic. It's like October, I think, was the date.
Something like that.
Yeah, so but they're going to do like a women, maybe like a network special or something like that. That will just be main roster women having a pay-per-view unto themselves. And you could possibly feature, NXT women on there, women from the Mae Young Classic as well, because there's lots of other names that are rumoured for this year's Mae Young Classic, including Mika Satomura, that you and I are big fans of, Io Shirai, Nixon Newell, who was nearly in last year's, and then you got the NXT UK talents as well. We got Toni Storm, who was in last year's, Killer Kelly, and Isla Dawn as well. So there's lots of names that they've got that they can play around with to do a whole pay-per-view based around it.
That'll be interesting.
And maybe that'll be the culmination of the tag team championships.
Possibly. Good point. You're not letting that go, are you?
No. It's me and Becky Lynch that we're just. But it's got to be one set of tag team titles across both brands. I don't want them spinning across because that would be. We saw what happened on SmackDown Live when they had the entire SmackDown Women's division around ringside, and it was 8 people.
I feel like there were about 3 weeks where you were saying we should do a video about the tag division. We should do a video about the women's tag division. I'm like, yeah, well, yeah. And then, like, as soon as I go away on my quest to find Byron Saxton, boom. Our WWE doing a women's tag division.
I did it, and no one watched. You were right.
That women's pay-per-view might tie into some other pay-per-view feng shui around WWE's calendar. That metaphor kind of fell apart.
Such a good... Oh, man, your segues, like, sometimes...
You reckon?
Flawless.
I don't think that was any good. But there's a report that TLC has been... Well, this is confirmed. TLC has been moved to December. And the October show, where it was originally scheduled, has kind of just turned into a super show where it's just stars from both brands, not an actual big pay-per-view event. Leaving the only event in October as the Australian Super Show, the Down Under thing, what special Down Under, I can't remember what it's called. So that, like, maybe that means that's the pay-per-view for October. And WWE will start, or that, I guess, too, you get a women's one and a foreign one. So I think we're getting into that stage now of the WWE network where WWE are going to start running pay-per-views from different countries. They're not really caring about the time difference.
Well, I think it really is moving forward in that direction because I think what WWE is sort of like realizing, I think what the wrestling world has almost come to realize is that the pay-per-view model isn't what drives business anymore. It used to be. You used to use TV to drive money towards the pay-per-view business. But now the money's in TV. Like they've just signed this massive deal with Fox that would have paid for every pay-per-view, like, going forward. Like, they don't need to make any money off pay-per-views now. So they can experiment with these things on the network. So they could do a women's-only pay-per-view in a October thing, and it doesn't matter if no one watches it because they've made all the money from TV rights anyway.
And they've got some good PR.
Exactly, it's good PR. It's the NXT is a money-losing brand. But it doesn't matter because they've got all these money from TV rights. So you can do things like NXT UK, which isn't going to make them any money whatsoever. But like you can do all these sorts of things.
It's interesting how both the big shows, to start this off, of course, Greatest Royal Rumble in the beautiful, beautiful city of Jeddah in Saudi Arabia.
Unmatched.
And now the Australia one in Melbourne.
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 No, it's Melbourne.
Melbourne. Both of them have been paid for. Or at least partly paid for, of course. They got an enormous amount of money, reportedly, for the Greatest Royal Rumble. And this Australia one is done in conjunction with an events company. So they are minimising the risk and going to these other countries. So it doesn't... Yeah, like... They've got a really smart business model at the moment. I don't know how effective it's going to be long-term, because I think you need quality at the core of it all. And I wouldn't really call WWE a quality product.
But it's got the name,
in any way. But
it's got the name and it's got these stars. Like it shows you what a company WWE is, or at least how they sort of perceive these events when the big matches that they announce do not feature any of the current stars. Like Greatest Royal Rumble, it was just like, if you come to the Greatest Royal Rumble in the beautiful city of Jeddah, you'll get to see Triple H versus John Cena. And then at the Australian one, it's like, you'll get to see Triple H versus The Undertaker. Like, that's the match that they announced. Yeah. Like a match that took place at a pay-per-view in 2001. At a WrestleMania.
Didn't happen.
Sorry, that one didn't happen. You're right, but the other ones did. Like that's their big draw. Like it's because it's the name that you're drawn to, and then you pick out stars that people recognise from 20 years ago.
And kind of in conjunction with all of this is the news from I can't remember the source now. That they
it's like Canadian. It's a Canadian site.
Like
yeah,
Barn Buncher or something.
Barn Burner.
By 2020, WWE are reportedly going to run 2 WrestleManias. Not back-to-back nights, but one in April and one in October. So I imagine the April one will be domestic, United States, like it's always been. But the October one, they've put down London, Australia, or Saudi Arabia. And I'm looking at those. London and Australia are two huge markets for wrestling outside the United States. Saudi Arabia, they get paid loads of money. So
I could certainly see them doing that, using the WrestleMania branding to essentially have, so you have 2 WrestleManias a year, 6 months apart from each other, And so it becomes like just this massive big event that you do towards the end of the year. And as you said, you can do that one around the world and just keep the April one as your domestic, as the actual WrestleMania. And then these ones are just like WrestleMania London, WrestleMania Melbourne, WrestleMania
like the
Saudi
takeovers.
Arabia. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like the biggest takeover. The greatest takeover.
I'm fully behind using the most important brand name to drive stuff. But for me, because that's a really sound business strategy, but WWE is the one that I think they should be pushing here. I think by almost not franchising out or licensing out, but you do diffuse WrestleMania by having 2 a year. Like, that's part of its appeal. It's a big annual thing. So it's a shame that they can't just create a new one, or like even like Survivor Series is now a touring round the world thing.
Yeah,
do something like that rather than have 2 WrestleManias a year. And like they said that there's no definite naming procedure in place, but it will be similar to Royal Rumble and Greatest Royal Rumble. I don't want to see the greatest WrestleMania. Or if it's in London, I imagine it's going to be called the Royalist WrestleMania or something equally banal.
Yeah, I can certainly get behind, actually. I hadn't considered that sort of aspect of it. But either way, I just think that for being able to put on these big old shows, especially here in London, where we have been asking, there's been a big petition for us to do a big WrestleMania here at some point, and they've always said no because they did SummerSlam 92 here, but it didn't particularly get a good buy rate because of the time difference. Time difference doesn't matter anymore because you got the network, and also the network is all on demand. So it doesn't actually matter if you watch it live because it's all on demand anyway.
Plus, if you do it like a Sunday evening, that's just a Sunday afternoon show for those in the States. It's kind of like when football goes out.
Yeah.
Lunchtime kickoff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be great. Should we get on with some crap gimmicks?
If you're new to this show, Crap Gimmicks is our weekly feature where you, the Swaff Nation, submit your ideas for crap gimmicks that we then go through and decide whether we want to sign them to the Crap Gimmick Wrestling roster. So if you do want to get in touch with me, it's luke@wrestletalk.com. If you have sent one and it's not been read out, it's just in the backlog. I'll get to them eventually. So first up, from Brian Farrell, he has suggested P.T. Isaac Edwards.
Okay. P.T. Isaac Edwards. It's an acronym. PIE.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Oh, you know where we are. P.T. is a southern redneck wrestler who loves pie. He walks to the ring with his favourite pie. He could be eating it, and then this could be a bad flavour if you want to turn him heel. And waddles to the ring in stereotypical farmer clothes. I love this description. Overalls, those large hats they wear, and the shirts with the red squares.
You can't say they. Those people. Farmers.
Yeah. What do you mean, you people?
Yeah.
He is a big and hairy man with brown hair and an unshaved chin. I'm guessing that means he has a beard. His entrance music is a dinner bell followed by an upbeat mix of banjo music. His finisher is the pie to the face, where he winds up to the corner while waiting for a groggy opponent to get up to his feet, and when he does, he hums to them and slaps them in the face as one would do with a pie. In no DQ matches, he can do it with an actual pie. He also uses the window siller, a sidewalk slam, but the victim going face first and he's landing on his back, as well as the pie in the sky, which is a top rope body splash. His signature matches are a pie on a pole or a pie eating contest. He loves to offer the fans a piece of pie and just wants his fair share of chances in crap gimmick wrestling. He ends all of his promos by uttering the catchphrase, "You're gonna get a piece of the pie."
I like this because no crap gimmick promotion can be without food fights.
Yes.
And this does lend itself to that. Also, we've got the Intercontinental Breakfast Championship. We've got a lot of food-based gimmicks.
We got another chef-based gimmick sent in, but because we didn't use Chet the Chef, and that one wasn't as good as Chet the Chef, so I have already disqualified that one.
Yeah, so that works, and I really like the windowsiller.
Yeah.
I think that's like, because I thought about it and I was like, oh yeah, the pie on the windowsill.
Like
that's
Desperate
funny.
Dan. That was my first thought, was Desperate Dan.
So that's good. My problem with it is that it's kind of like pre-existing WWF gimmicks.
Well, yeah, it's the
just
pig
a
farmers.
hillbilly thing, the pig farmer stuff. So Yeah, that's although I like it, I feel like it's already been done.
Yes, perhaps. Right, so this one is from, this is our last one for today, Chris Michaels, who has suggested The Commentator. It's basically a wrestler who is a commentator wannabe. He wears a headset and he comments on his own matches. Everything he or his opponents does, he comments on it. For his matches, the real commentators are not allowed to talk. Even when he loses, he keeps talking while he's getting pinned or submitted.
That's good. This is also good. This is a usual comedy spot in matches as well. The Young Bucks and Kenny Omega did it last year in their OTT show, where they, like, Kenny Omega got a microphone and started commenting along, like announcing what he was doing. It's good, but I feel like it's not that well written up. I would have preferred more spots, more catchphrases. Yeah. But I think the central idea is very good.
Yes, I also agree that the central idea is there, but it's not quite. Do you want one more?
I
have got one more. This one is from. They didn't actually leave a name, but it's clever username and stuff, I think is what they're going by. Perry is a priest in his late 30s with a receding hairline and hints of grey. Perry wears black pants and a black button-up with the middle of the white collar, so like a priest. He walks to the ring offering the host, which is bread and wine if you're not Catholic, to those who want it. Before the bell ring, Perry kisses the cross around his neck, closes his eyes saying, "Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned." Then chants things in Latin to himself quietly. He opens his eyes with rage and hatred filling his body. He rips off his shirt to reveal an incredible body with an 8-pack that is 5% body fat. Yes, he has tons of chest hair, and he's very aggressive, quick and powerful. His finisher is the Master Lock, renamed as the Final Confession. Here he takes them to their knees, and Lock keeps on the lock until they confess their sins. Even if the bell rings, he won't let them go until he hears a confession. Once they confess, he releases the hold and reverts back to the kind man before the bell. He then looks to them with sadness, and he carries the helpless body and he says, "I forgive you, my child," and helps the beaten opponent backstage and cares for them afterwards. His goal is to make wrestling holy, and his twisted way of accomplishing this is to beat the crap out of everyone so bad that they have to confess the horrible wrongdoings they've made in the past in order to create a better future. He has an ongoing conflict with himself on his methods, if his methods are flawed, or if sometimes he has to do a bad thing for the greater good.
I like this. I really like this. I almost like this too much. I think this is just a good gimmick.
It's great, isn't it?
I think this could just be a good gimmick on a main roster show.
It's not crap enough.
It's not a crap gimmick. It's just a really good idea.
I love this idea.
The reveal is great.
Yeah, totally. It'd be even better if like his hair could like look different as well, like almost like anime style. Like you pull it off and it becomes like a different character model.
I don't think we can afford this guy. Not on our crap gimmick budget.
No, exactly.
That's good. That's a complex character as well. I always like those ones where they do struggle. Not when it's Abyss reading Sun Tzu, but I like it when they're like kind of Kevin Owens when he's shouting at himself, like, "You made me do this, why am I doing this?" That sort of tortured component to him. And there's nothing more tortured than a Catholic priest in terms of just original sin and stuff.
And their Catholic guilt and all that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So, like, just look at Daredevil and...
I was going to say, Daredevil's the original Catholic guilt.
I mean, he's not
character.
The original.
No, the comic book character.
Jesus.
Jesus was probably the original one, yeah. If you go back to the text, if you go back to the source material, probably Jesus.
I mean, if you want to be all prequel about it... If you want to be that great Daredevil prequel, The Bible, about it, sure. I want him. Maybe I'm sure if we signed him, we could make him crap enough.
Yeah, I mean, Perry the Priest is someone that I'm into. Also, we can do 2 trading cards with him as well, like his pre and post.
Yeah.
Before the bell and during the match.
Should we sign him?
Sign him, Perry the Priest.
Well done.
And if you want to submit a question to the mailbag, all you've got to do is become one of our pledge hammers and pledge to us on Patreon at any level. And you can leave a comment in our community just titled Mailbag and let us know the questions that you want us to answer on the Saturday WrestleRamble. First up, from Marcel Durer. Hey guys, who from the main roster do you think would make a perfect addition to Sanity? The exclamation mark is specifically for you, Ollie. One rule, unfortunately it says he, but
he hasn't written the capitalization of Sanity correctly, though.
He has not. He's also... they must be from another nationality and any of Sanity's current members. A different nationality to any
of course, because they're all
yes,
German, Irish, Belfast.
Yes, you can't
Belfast
be Canadian.
Isn't a country.
Yeah, the great country of Belfast. So they can't be Canadian, German, or Irish,
think,
or Scottish if you're counting Nikki Storm in there as well.
I think Killian Dane is a country, isn't he? He's actually classified as his own national.
I'm pretty sure as well, and all the hair is just the rolling meadows.
Mm.
Do you believe WWE is still interested in creating great debuts? I doubt that, since I can't remember any good debut in a long time. Wasn't there a news story about Kevin Dunn sabotaging NXT call-ups purposefully because he wasn't, quote, Team Hunter? Maybe I wear a tinfoil hat, but I think that is still going on. Let me know what you think. So there's kind of a double question there, like who would you like to see added to Sanity? And is Kevin Dunn trying to purposely sabotage NXT call-ups?
I think so. There's a really good quote that I try and live by. Don't attribute to malice what you can also attribute to incompetence.
Nice.
So I think that Kevin Dunn and Vince McMahon and all the people who are in charge of like the old guard of WWE are just stuck in their ways. They're out of touch. They think what they're doing is the best way of doing it because that's how most people who can be considered evil or rubbish outside, they genuinely think they're doing the right thing. So I think Kevin Dunn is just past it. And like he thinks all these flashy, shaky camera angles are genuinely adding to the chaoticness of the product, when really it's bloody annoying and you don't need that much insanity in Sanity's entrance. Feels overdone. You don't need to change Bobby Roode's font on his entrance video.
That's the most upsetting one for you, isn't it?
It was the first. It was the first that really got to me. So I don't think that. What about you?
Yeah, I'm agree. I could certainly see if I was to put on a tinfoil hat to say like, yeah, Kevin Dunn, because there's always been those stories that Kevin Dunn and Triple H just do not get on. Triple H really doesn't like Kevin Dunn, and vice versa. And so I could almost see that Dunn getting into Vince's ear and saying like, that NXT's proper rubbish. You know, that guy, he's not a star. We know stars. Me and you, we know stars. We built all these stars together.
Caitlin's ugly, isn't she?
Exactly,
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff. So I could possibly see that, but I don't know if they're purposefully ruining NXT call-ups just as a way to kind of like get at Triple H, because I wouldn't see the point in doing that.
Because otherwise they would bury them more overtly. I think most people is WWE. They're trying to get them over in whatever warped reality they think works.
That's exactly it. But to the other question, who from the main roster would you think would be a perfect addition to Sanity? Granted, we're in a little bit of luck here because one of the nations that's not a part of Sanity is America, and the majority of their roster is American, so we've actually got quite a lot to choose from.
But who are you going? Well, unfortunately, I was like, who kind of fits that mold? Drew McIntyre's a big burly Scottish,
mate. You're gonna have that one. So I suppose you've got to try. I mean, do you have to pick someone who is already a little bit crazy? And the other thing with Sanity as well is they've kind of got everything that they need because you've got the big bruiser, so you don't want to put another big bruiser in there. It's almost like when they put Braun Strowman in the Wyatt family. And you're like, oh, so you're also just a big bruiser like Luke Harper is and Eric Rowan is. You're all three the same thing now.
I think I've got one.
You got one? Who
I've
you
got
gonna
one.
go with?
I think so. They're all crazy, right?
Mm.
I just think you need a different kind of crazy.
Oh, right.
I think Hideo Itami as the silent Japanese guy, like that scene in The Simpsons where it's the guy in the white suit who's like, I want to see what he's going to do. And like, he's just always at the back. But he's the most dangerous one, really.
Yeah.
Because he's completely mad.
I like that. Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that one as well. That. Thank you very much for your question, Ryan Sanderson. With SummerSlam coming up,
Yes, Ryan.
and with it being a big
Slam.
4, and will probably be 5 hours long.
Sorry, I didn't listen. I stopped listening at Schlam. I was so happy about Schlam. Can we go back? What's the rest of
with SummerSlam coming up, and with it being a big 4 pay-per-view, big 5, and it will probably be 5 hours long, probably be 6. Do you think that the Cruiserweight Championship will be defended on the show? And if so, who should challenge Cedric for the title? Well, actually, I think it will probably be on the kickoff show. It won't be on the main card. But I'd imagine that they probably will put a Cruiserweight title match on there to fill out the card.
To fill out you don't need to fill out that card. It's going to be so bloated already.
Well, you got to get everyone on the card, mate. It's like WrestleMania now, isn't it? You got to get everyone on there. Get them their SummerSlam payday. So I don't know who I'd like to see challenged. I mean, Buddy Murphy would probably be my. I think that he's the guy that they've got a lot of stock in on 205 Live, and I think that he and Cedric have already shown that they can have a great match when given time, which they won't do on the SummerSlam kickoff show. Hideo Itami, I'm a big fan of. Leo Rush, I think they're trying to do something with him at the moment.
A bit rushed though. for him to go to the title right away.
Perhaps. Well, Buddy Murphy went for the title.
He was very well packaged though, and he's a big guy.
Yeah,
he's 206 live, really. Let's be honest.
Yeah. But is there anyone that you would like to see Cedric face?
It's difficult because, like, we were talking about the disinterested scale on the Extreme Rules predictions yesterday. I put 205 Live in the Cruiserweight division at around an 8.
Yeah, you're really not into the Cruiserweight stuff,
and I get that they're doing great matches, but, like, they do better matches elsewhere, and I kind of have my fill of WWE every week.
Yeah.
So Mustafa Ali, has he fought...
Yeah, that was a WrestleMania.
He got to the finals, but then they've done the Buddy Murphy thing. It's kind of Ali, Murphy, and Alexander. Maybe Mustafa Ali again.
Just it's the only one that Vince recognises. Oh, he was at WrestleMania. Just put him on the card again. Yeah. So that looks like the one from Mortal Kombat. We've got a couple more questions here, but I will do this one as our last question. Chris Merriman, I know that Oli talks a lot about liking comedy wrestling. What are your thoughts on Joey Ryan?
I think he's, for what he does... He's the best in the world at it. That kind of sort of 70s porn star, but tongue-in-cheek, like not like a porn star these days, but the old window cleaner vibe.
Confessions of a Handyman.
Yeah, like that's to use the British versions of it, but what would that be in America? Just like the big mustachioed pizza delivery man.
Yeah, I'm here to fix the fridge.
Yeah, and I think he does that very well. And there are loads of different types of wrestling fan, and one particular part of that wrestling fan audience is kind of those who spends their time on Pornhub and does and recognises these sorts of things. You went in a
different direction than I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to say there is a portion of wrestling fans and some of them like comedy wrestling, and Joey Ryan's very good at that. You just went, nope, straight to pornography.
No, because there's loads of comedy wrestlers, but Joey Ryan is quite an adult-rated comedy wrestler, which is just a different, it's just one more bit down that branch of categories. And yeah, he does that. The penis plex is just crazy. It gives Jim Cornette an aneurysm, and
he hates it.
And I totally get why Jim wouldn't, but if you're doing a varied show like that, what a great palate cleanser that is to have after a hard hitting bout when you're there and you just you're in with an adult crowd and you're just laughing at spots like this and you're already about 7 beers deep. That's brilliant. I actually was just on a YouTube hole, you know how you get into, and do you remember when Joey Ryan lost his DDT Iron, is it heavy metal iron weight?
Something like that.
So the DDT title that changes hands to everyone.
A ladder has been champion.
He lost his title to the crowd.
I
can't remember how it happened, but he lost his title to the crowd, and the crowd started chanting, "We are awesome." And that counted as them tapping out, and Joey Ryan won it back.
Very good.
Very good. There's one more story, because that lent me down the DDT path.
Yeah.
And there was I've never seen this one before, so it might just be someone making it up. But a table won this particular championship.
Yes. Yeah.
But then a plate on the table won the title because the plate was on the title. And then the rice on the plate won the title. And then the sauce on the rice won the title. And it just kept on going up.
Yeah.
So they're all there on the Wikipedia page of Reigns. It's a long article.
And people wonder why Jim Cornette thinks that wrestling is going down the toilet or anything. But I think that's really funny. And I think that Joey Ryan is very funny as well. I know I wasn't addressed in the question, but it's fine. But and I kind of subscribe to the Dave Meltzer theory on this, which is that if it gets over with the crowd, then there's no reason to stop it. Like Jim Cornette's always just like, oh, they should just stop doing it because it's stupid. But Dave's always like, yeah, but it gets over. So like, why would you stop doing it? Like, if it's something organically gets over, then do that because the crowd enjoy it. Don't stop. If you stop doing it, then the crowd aren't going to have as much fun. And what's the point?
We should also pay our respects to Joey Ryan. It's very sad that he's passed on. This is a Being the Elite. It's a Being the Elite.
Oh right, sorry. I'm really behind on my Being the Elite episodes. I'm genuinely I'm like 5. Oh yeah, because they did the Chris Jericho where he was there with the paying respects. Yeah, I'm quite far behind on my episodes, but I kind of keep up to date with bits.
So yeah, posthumously, he was a very good comedy wrestler. Everything we've just said, put it in the past tense.
Yes, pretty much.
Very sad. But that's all we've got time for.
Do you want to try that again?
My voice broke a little bit.
I heard.
Wow. Where did that come from? That's all we've got time for today, folks. Please click the videos here to catch up with the latest WrestleTalk awesome stuff. And what's this here? It's the iTunes link to subscribe you to the podcast version. I've been Ollie Davis. This has been Luke Owen. And that was WrestleRamble.